Jay-Z didn't just co-sign Drake, he gave him a warning, a quiet one, the kind you only hear when you're really listening. When Drake first burst onto the scene, he wasn't just another rapper trying to go mainstream. He was being shaped, groomed, guided by some of the sharpest minds in the industry. And none loomed larger than Hov. Jay-Z wasn't just throwing verses for clout, he was building something, protecting something, and if you go back now and really sit with the lyrics, they sound more like a blueprint than a feature, more like a private conversation disguised as a public record. See, the first time Jay and Drake linked up musically was on Light Up from Drake's debut album. At the time, it just sounded like a flex, Drake getting the nod from the king himself. But buried in those verses, Jay dropped lines like, "Drake, here's how they're gonna come at you, and watch for traitors disguised as favors." That wasn't rap talk, that was Big Brother energy, that was survival talk. And the more you fast forward through Drake's career, the more those lines feel like warnings about one man in particular, Diddy. Now, the Diddy-Drake tension didn't come out of nowhere. In 2014, a storm was already brewing behind the scenes. The catalyst? A beat. Just a beat. 0 to 100, produced by Boy Wonder and Frank Dukes, was the spark. Drake recorded it, released it, watched it take over the summer. Diddy, meanwhile, believed that beat was meant for him. He felt snubbed, disrespected, and when egos the size of skyscrapers collide, it doesn't take much for things to explode. That December, it did. DJ Khaled's birthday party in Miami. It was supposed to be a celebration. But Diddy had other plans. According to people who were there or close enough to hear what went down, Diddy rolled up on Drake and demanded answers. When Drake didn't back down, Diddy allegedly smacked him. Some say he punched him. Either way, that moment wasn't just a scuffle, it was a message, a public reminder of power, of hierarchy, of control. But this wasn't high school drama. This was music industry politics. Diddy wasn't just mad about a beat, he was mad about what that beat represented. Drake wasn't just a young artist anymore. He was surpassing people, outshining them. And some of those people didn't like that one bit. The whispers got louder. People started saying Diddy had put a price on Drake's head. Not in a literal mob hit kind of way, but in that insidious, whispered LA kind of way, the kind that makes people move different, watch their backs, cancel plans. Drake knew it too, and he moved accordingly. That's where the game enters the picture. Compton's own street-certified heavyweight. Drake wasn't stupid. If Diddy had pull in certain circles, he needed pull of his own. So Drake did what smart people do. He built alliances. He and Game dropped a track called 100. They filmed the video in Compton, not just to shoot a cool visual, but to plant a flag, to send a message, I got people now, I'm not alone. But even then, the fear hadn't disappeared. During the video shoot, Drake spotted unfamiliar faces, random guys, unknown energies, and he dipped, left the set, thought it was a setup. According to Whack 100, it took someone running after Drake to calm him down and let him know those guys were there to protect him, not hurt him. But the fact that he ran, that says everything. He wasn't paranoid, he was informed. He knew something Jay-Z might have told him long before anyone else ever did. Jay-Z had been in the game long enough to see all the traps. He knew how the industry worked, not just the labels and deals, but the whispers, the favors, the setups. And when he spoke in metaphors, it wasn't for style, it was survival. The Barzini line from Light Up still echoes for those paying attention. That wasn't just a Godfather reference, it was a coded nod to snakes in suits, people who'd invite you to meetings just to cut your legs under the table. Jay was trying to lace Drake up with armor before the war even started. Thing is, the industry has layers. It's not just about music. There are deeper plays happening in the background. Power games, silent wars, quiet blackballs, and strategic alliances. And Diddy? He wasn't just a flashy mogul, he was a master of the silent game. Behind the smiles and champagne, Diddy moved like a chess player who didn't like losing pawns. And when you cross someone like that, intentionally or not, there are ripples. The situation with Drake wasn't just about the beat. It wasn't even just about Cassie, although that rumor did make rounds. According to whispers, in 2013, Drake had tried to bring Cassie over to OVO, Whether that was business or something more, it touched a nerve. Diddy had always been territorial, and in his mind, perception is everything. Even a hello in the wrong tone can turn into a grudge. The slap in Miami was just the public symptom. What came after was darker. Whispers floated through LA's back channels that Diddy had eyes on Drake. Not just the kind you find in clubs, but the kind that sit on corners and report back. Street surveillance, passive threats. People started noticing how Drake was moving. Cautious, strategic. That's when the Game's presence made sense. Game wasn't just doing a feature, he was offering something Drake couldn't buy in stores. Safety. And Game wasn't quiet about it either. He said it himself. People called him up, tried to get him involved in something ugly, told him to wet Drake up. But instead of violence, he chose loyalty. He hit Drake directly, told him what was going down, offered cover, let him know he had people in place. But even Game, as solid as he was, knew that protection like that isn't handed out for free. This wasn't charity, it was currency. And Drake paid it the best way he could, with art. 100 wasn't just a record, it was a transaction, a calculated move to lock in protection and publicly stamp their bond. It said, we're cool, we're aligned, and it made people think twice about trying anything slick. But still, even as things looked patched up on the surface, the unease didn't go away. When Diddy eventually popped up on the Breakfast Club to deny everything, say Drake was his friend, it didn't land right. It felt scripted, like PR cleanup. He said, I didn't touch Drake, I don't want problems. But no one really bought that. Not the fans, not the insiders, because behind closed doors, stories still leaked. About tension, about ego, about silent beefs that just refused to die. And the more you listened to Drake's music during that era, the more it felt like therapy sessions set to beats. In 4 p.m. in Calabasas, he takes shots at self-promoters, flexes over being pressed by OGs, even mimics Diddy's signature, take that, take that. Not a diss, a statement. Subtle but loud enough for those who knew where to look. He wasn't hiding, he was documenting. Quietly, boldly, bar for bar. Some fans say Jay-Z wasn't just warning Drake, he was protecting himself too. The lines that once sounded like industry wisdom now read more like insurance. If things ever got messy, Jay could always say, I tried to tell him, because while he was guiding Drake, he was also navigating his own position. Close enough to see Diddy's moves, far enough to not catch the fallout. But lately, Jay's name keeps popping up in places it used to avoid. Legal docs, allegations, conspiracy threads that stitch him and Diddy together in the same sentence. Some even claim that Jay and Diddy weren't just industry partners, they were playing the same game on different levels. Jaguar Wright, never one to hold her tongue, once said it plain, they're the same sandwich. Peanut butter and jelly. Different flavors, same plate. That line stuck with people, not just because it was wild, but because deep down, something about it felt accurate. And then there's the lawsuits, the party rumors, the NDAs, the stories whispered in hotel corridors and black SUVs. Jay's usually Teflon, but when Diddy gets dragged into the mud, Hov's name is often right behind him. Not accused directly, but mentioned enough to make people wonder just how much he knew and for how long. Did Jay protect Drake because he cared, or because he saw a version of himself, a student too valuable to lose? Drake, for his part, handled it like he always does, through music, timing, and silence. He never once addressed the Diddy situation head-on. No interviews, no angry tweets, just bars. Calm, surgical, layered bars. He let the fans do the math, let the streets carry the whispers, and while some laughed off the idea of Diddy putting out a bounty or making threats, others knew better. LA doesn't play fair, and Diddy isn't the type to yell unless it's already too late. The Game's move to protect Drake was real. It came from loyalty, sure, but also strategy. Aligning with Drake elevated him too. That's how this game works. Alliances are transactions dressed as friendships. But Game didn't just cash in, he showed up. That made him one of the few who stood between Drake and whatever storm Diddy might have stirred up. In the years since, the industry has shifted. Diddy's image cracked, Cassie's allegations, controlling behavior, manipulation, forced people to reevaluate everything. Suddenly, those old stories didn't sound so outlandish. The Miami slap, the bounty whispers, the paranoia on set. It wasn't just drama, it was survival. And if Jay-Z had known about Diddy's darkest moves, the silence starts to look a little strategic. So now fans are doubling back, replaying old tracks, studying lyrics like crime scene photos. Was Watch for the Traitors just about business? Or was Jay pointing to something deeper? Was Drake, Here's How They'll Come at You, a heads up? Or a subtle confession? People want answers, and music, for all its genius, doesn't always give them, it hides them. One thing's clear, Drake never moved the same after all that. He built his empire with one eye open. Although it became more than a label, it became a fortress. He chose silence over spectacle, alliances over outbursts. Because in a world where cosigns come with invisible contracts and protection comes with price tags, playing the long game isn't just smart, it's necessary. Now the question ain't just what happened back then, it's who knew what and when. And if Jay-Z really was trying to save Drake or just shield himself. Either way, one thing's for sure. Those lyrics, they weren't just lines, they were lifeline, wrapped in riddles, hidden in plain sight.